welcome once again to Let's Talk Marriage. This is Pastor Larry coming to you this Wednesday afternoon with Let's Talk Marriage. All right. I hope everyone is doing well. If you woke up this morning, you are doing well. All right. We're going to be talking about praying for our families because the enemy is surely coming against our families. There's so many families that are broken. So many families are feuding or just not getting along with each other. And the same thing with our churches. There's so many people in our churches that are not getting along, and people have left church because of church hurt. But if you left church because of church hurt, don't not go to church. Just find another church to attend. Amen. All right. We're going to get right on into our message. Hope everyone is doing well. Again, if you woke up this morning, you are doing well. All right. Pray for our families. All right. Tuesday was election day. I hope everyone got out to vote. Make it a family thing. If your children are above or at the voting age, make sure you try to make it a family thing where you discuss who you voting for, why you're voting for them, and go out and vote for your candidates. So I guess next week we won't see those little cards and stuff that come in the mail from the politicians, or the email or text, or however they contact you. I guess we won't see that next week. But make sure you go out and vote, because your vote does count. We just want to make that clear on our program today, because I believe they're still going to be counting votes even tomorrow, or even not tomorrow, but today, which would be the 5th, I believe, or the 5th, 5th or 4th, 5th or 6th, I believe. They're still going to be counting votes. So make sure that we are, go out and do your civil duty. We're talking about praying for our families. So make sure we are praying for our families, praying for our children, because our children, we've mentioned it so many times on the program, that our children go through so many different things nowadays, things that we never would have thought about years ago. First of all, we're talking about social media and texting and Facebook and all those things like that, where we didn't have back then. Every kid has a cell phone now. Back then, a cell phone wasn't even heard of until later on, and when they came out, very few people had them because they were out in the 70s, 80s, but very few people had them. But now everyone has a cell phone, and years ago, when you faced a bully, you had to face them face to face. But now people are what they call cyber bullying, over using the social media or internet, or however they're using it to bully people. So we have to keep an eye on our children, make sure we are praying for them. Because back then it was never heard of with someone coming to school and shooting up a school and all that. But what they should do, which I had mentioned years ago, because sometimes when we get in the neighborhoods where there's a lot less crime, because crime happens everywhere, but there's some areas in Illinois or in any city, especially in Illinois, if you're like in the far suburbs, like myself, we live out in the far suburbs, and crime is not as bad as it would be if you were living in the inner city. But nevertheless, what they should be doing is have metal detectors in all schools. I think they should institute it in all schools to prevent, not to react after the shooting. We need to learn how to prevent those things. And when we learn how to prevent those things, because if you think about it, it's not that often you hear about anybody going inside of a school in the city shooting it up. Not recently, but before they instituted the metal detectors, they did. But since they have, you very seldom hear that about them going inside the schools in the city shooting them up. So they need to institute those, I believe, in all schools, where they have metal detectors. When you go to the airport, they give you a thorough search, So when you go to a school, which is you have children that are in danger. I think there should be metal detectors in the schools. You know, I know a lot of people might say, "Oh no, oh no, we don't want our kids to feel like they're in prison." But I rather that they feel that way and be safe than not have it. You know, because this would be a preventive measure. You would stop the children from uh, bringing weapons or anything into school. And if you have metal detectors, it would detect not only guns, knives, and things of that nature. So I think they should be. So that's something to pray about that they might should institute, and they should really bring prayer back into schools because, especially after something tragic and happened in the school. The schools need to get together and just pray. No matter what your religion is, you should still be able to pray together for have a community prayer whenever things happen in our schools. So make sure that we are praying for our children each morning before they go to school, so they'll be covered by our prayers. And our prayers avail it much. So make sure that we are praying for our children and praying for our family, praying for our wives. And we mentioned a lot of times on the program how our wives are the ones that hold up our families because they're the ones that do all the work in the families. It's just like on a battlefield. Usually the general is in charge, but he's not the one that most of the time is not uh, going out on the battlefield. He's usually does the strategic things and planning, but the things are executed by the foot soldiers, and the soldiers. So that's how the wives are. They execute things that are set in place, and they keep the household to how I keep our households together, and keep the home happy. What they say, happy wife, happy life, which is very true. So we want to make sure that we keep our wives happy and very supporting of them, and make sure that we are supporting them because there's so many things that are going on, and we have to stay prayerful. What even with the outcome of this election, that no one gets violent or try to do anything underhandedly, or because it's very crucial that we continue to pray for not only for our family, for our churches, pray for your pastors. And I've said it so many times on the program. If you feel like you need, just like in a school, a lot of times if you're in a school with a lot of the other students and you need one-on-one attention or one-on-one instructions, you wouldn't want to be in a class with a whole bunch of other kids because you'll never get that one-on-one attention. Find yourself a smaller church. There's nothing wrong with a smaller church. Attend a smaller church where you can get one-on-one attention, one-on-one prayer. It's more, there's more closeness, and people are it's just like a small town. When you're in a small town, everyone knows everyone. Everyone watches out for each other, and that's how it is when you're in a smaller church. Everyone knows each other. You share things together. You go through things together. When one is hurting, we all are hurting, which should happen in any church, but it happens more often. I find out when you're in a smaller church. And coming up in that, because I was raised in the church, and as I was raised in the church, I've been in both smaller churches and large churches. I was in a church when I was a teenager that seated over 3,000 people. And on Sunday morning, we had about 1,500 to 2,000 people on Sunday morning services. And then when we had revival, the whole house would be full. We were at the smaller churches. I've been at the larger churches, the startup churches. I've been doing them all since I've been in church because I've been in church such a long time, and I've enjoyed every minute of being in church. So we should instill that in our children, and when you instill that in your children, continue to pray for our family. Make sure you continue to pray for your wives. Continually pray for your husbands. So you never know what kind of pressure and things like that they might, go through on their jobs. Because a lot of times they don't, you know, try not to talk about work when they get home. I like a lot of women like to vent. Men don't. They sometimes vent. You very rarely hear a man venting. But make sure you keep your husbands in your prayers, that God works something in their life and keep them healthy, keep them strong mentally and physically. Because a lot of times on these jobs, they have to work twice as hard, being minorities, as anyone else to move up or be noticed on a job. But promotion comes from the Lord anyway. So make sure that we are keeping our families in prayer, holding up our families, attending. We mentioned it last week on the program. We mentioned the whole program was about going back to church, and simply and truly we want to mention that again and reiterate that and stress that we should be going back to church. If you have not been to church in a while, find yourself a church and attend it on a regular basis. Be faithful. And when you find out when you're being faithful to a church or any church, you'll find that your life, things, your prayers will be answered more often. You'll find that God will work more miracles in your life for you being faithful, because there's something about being a faithful steward. So we want to make sure that we are returning back to our churches, and again, and what the program is today is pray for our families. So keep our families up in prayer, especially our children, because they, again, they're dealing with so many things that we never had to deal with. Just simply, I mean, just crazy. You never heard. It was never heard of kids bringing guns to school and and weapons to school, and that was never heard of. But it's so often now. Now you hear it so often. It's like a norm. Where someone comes in on jobs. You never heard about that on jobs either, where people will return back and shoot up the place, and that was never heard of. And with social media and more cameras in the neighborhood, it seemed like the crime got worse. The more cameras, the worse the crime got. So, and they thought that the crime. See, what they're trying to do uh, uh, is an aftermath of the crime. Those are things that are come to use after the crime is committed. What we need to do is figure out a way to prevent it in the first place. That's why I had mentioned about the metal detectors in the school, because you could have things in place all day long, but if the things don't occur or don't get used until after the crime is committed, that's not really doing anything, because people can get hurt or even killed. So we want to have preventive things, and that's what the praying for your family is a preventive measure. Praying for things before they happen, and keeping them safe, and praying that God covers them under His blood, and you'll see that things work out. And I know when we were going to school, and we didn't have hardly nowhere near as much stuff that's going on now. But my mom, she would pray for us every morning before we went to school, and I remember many days I went to school with a greasy forehead because she would anoint our head with oil before we left the house. And and when we got to school, there were things going on. They had little gangs there, but I never had any issues with them the whole time I was going to school, and it just was a wonderful occasion doing grade school and junior high. We had such a wonderful times doing that because of the prayers of my mother and how she prayed for us, because she was a single parent, but she still held her own. And that's what they did back then. Parents were stronger back then. We have a new breed of parents now. So that's why we have to pray even more for these young mothers that are coming up, because they have so much more to deal with than what we had to deal with back in, how they say, back in the day. We didn't have a lot of things that are occurring now. So keep our families in prayer. Continually pray for our families, and that God work a miracle and keep them safe from hurt, harm, and danger. This is Pastor Larry, and we're going to be signing off. And remember, pray for our families. Until we meet again. This is Pastor Larry with Let's Talk Marriage. I want to take this opportunity to invite you out to our services at New Zion Christian Center. We're located at 15014 Desplain Street in Plainfield, Illinois. Our services begin at 11:30 a.m. We'll see you there, and God bless you.